Hey guys and girls, PokeTinking here, back with another Pokemon Market video. So today we're going to go through a little bit of kind of what's been happening over the last couple of months, where we are in terms of modern. Are we in a dead era? Is this just a dip, or is this kind of what to expect going forward? So we're going to go through a little bit some of the recent sets and kind of have a look at like the prices of those. So obviously Paradox Rift is the most recent release. We can see it right now. For $97.95 for a box. It's probably about standard what you'd find it now. The ETBs are $37.95. Some of these you'll have like discounts and stuff where you get like money off and stuff, but generally 95 to 100 is about standard. And you got these half boost books as well, which sort of popped up a couple of years ago, which I think is a good idea. And you'll probably, some of these are a little bit more expensive than others. Obviously, no one's going to be paying 55 for one ETB. But generally speaking, 95 to 100 is pretty standard for Paradox Rift here. So I guess if we look at the last four sets, all four of the sets can be found for under £100 now. Obsidian Flames is about 100. But if you get an auction, you can get boxes generally for sort of £95. But I think the lowest bin right now is about 100. So, what's going on with Pokemon? Why is this the case? When we look at the last couple of years, we've seen so much change within the market of Pokemon. We've seen boxes become almost extinct on release, like you just couldn't get anything. And now we seem to have such a surplus of Pokemon. And I think a lot of people feel that this isn't good or this isn't right. Obviously, RRP went up because we had the change in the packs. So when SV started, we had 2 reverse foils and a foil as well, every single pack. And generally speaking, the hit rates went up a little bit as well. Obviously, every set we've had these, illustration, art rares, whatever you want to call them. And you generally get about 4 of those per box. So that's kind of boosted the pull and hit rates per box now. So it almost feels like 1 per 2 packs is generally a hit. I know from all the boxes that I've opened recently on stream, generally 16 to 18 hits per box is standard. Which, and that's not including obviously the hollows which you get per pack. But yeah, we've seen such a change in not just the model of Pokemon, in the products that we're getting now, but in just terms of, the prices. But RRP went up. Obviously, RRP is about 145, and we're seeing every box on release below 100, which is something that we haven't seen for years. Obviously, go back to Sun and Moon era and XY's era, you generally could see that. I do remember Crimson Invasion being around £75 a box, which was ridiculous. And people were panicking back then. But obviously, social media wasn't as big. That was pre-boom, so we didn't have the whole everything's being shared constantly. You're always seeing there's so many more people stocking Pokemon now. So you've got this fight for the bottom line, essentially. And I think what we've seen now and what we're having right now is so many stores, whether they're online or actual LGSs, they stock Pokemon. A lot of them would have generally sold Pokemon before, but might not have shifted in the volumes that, they went to during, the last couple of years. And they're all stocking it. Every single set that comes out, they'll get the blisters, ETBs, boxes, whatever, the build and battle kits, the battle stadium things. But they're kind of fighting to hit that bottom line because when release comes, they get that big bill from Asmodee or whoever their distributor is, and they've got to pay it, and they're like, right, well, I need to shift this product. But everyone else is in the same predicament, and suddenly Pokemon isn't flying off the shelves the same way as it did 12, 18, 24 months ago. So these stores are starting to drop their prices, and you see this on every release. You see pre-orders for these sets, and they'll be about 110 to 120 a box. And then you see as soon as the release comes, they've dropped it to £100 a box. And some of them £95 a box for some cases, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And you've got this constant stream of stores taking pre-orders, using that money to then pay for the next set. And it's a constant just fight to get that kind of capital and that cash stream within the business. And they're almost fire selling at this point now, let's be honest. Stores are fire selling because they need the capital back from this set so they can pay for the next set. We've got a shiny set coming out in January. We've just had 151 come out, and then Paradox Rift came out almost, within a month to 6 weeks. We've got such, short release windows now where we have more than one holiday set per year. Obviously, we're having a collection box. Every single Pokemon is getting a collection box. You know, I look at some of the other collection box they've done, and the Hisuian, Hisuian whatever, Electrode, and I'm seeing those for £10 a box. The Annihilate boxes, I think you only get 3 packs in those. I'm seeing those getting sold for like 10, 11 quid. So we are in a state of saturation here, not just of Pokemon, but in TCGs in general. You think the average LGS for the last 5 years, their business model has been about selling Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. And suddenly we've got a world where Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, modern at least, aren't selling so well. So these stores are struggling. And you've seen this with, multiple stores are closing across the country now. Obviously, Living Realms closed. Then they went into liquidation and then they got bought. I don't know what's kind of happened to the inner details of that. They must have been in some debt at some point because they wouldn't have closed otherwise. So they must have just been chasing releases. The same as Top Decking. Obviously, they were known very much for their Weiss Schwartz. They were the main UK store for Weiss. And that's a completely different other world, Weiss, where you've got a release every 3 weeks, which is ridiculous. And I don't envy sellers that are selling Weiss Schwartz because trying to navigate that seems like an absolute head mess. Like, you've got some sets do really well and some sets don't, but you've got to pre-order so far in advance. It's like you've got to kind of take a gamble on what's going to possibly a good set or not. And, if you don't sell on release or within that month, you're not going to sell those boxes because Weiss Schwartz comes and goes so quickly. And I think, at least with Pokemon, sure, stores that aren't going to sell Paradox Rift on release, they've still got a chance of selling packs afterwards. They can still sell, over the next couple of months. People will pick up packs here and there. Maybe not boxes, but packs here and there. Obviously, Christmas is coming up. People might be buying, Pokemon cards as gifts. But yeah, it's mental. If we look at, we're going to go into a couple other sets. So Scarlet and Violet base, 95 box here. I've just put box in, but it's going to come up with ETBs. ETBs just had another restock. That's why you can see them everywhere at £30 to £35 each. I mean, even this deal right here, you get a booster box and one of each ETB, which I actually think that's a really great deal. If you're looking at doing each set and you want to get an ETB of each set and then, obviously a box as well, this will go for slightly more because it's an acrylic. But this ETB, this has got, that's pre-owned, so that's got to be, I don't know why someone would sell a pre-owned ETB, honestly. But there's tons. There's absolute supplies there. I think these mini booster boxes are pretty good. For people that, want to get, if we look at Obsidian Flames, again, I think, if we look at Paldea Evolved, we'll go Paldea Evolved because we haven't done that one yet. Paldea Evolved is going to be the same thing. You can get ETBs for £32.89, and then you get 20% off coupon. 88.29. Below £90 for Paldea Evolved. I know Asmodee just did a 30% off, so stores were literally selling, buying product for cheap. And then we look at Obsidian Flames. I did look at this earlier on, and I think it was around 100. So it's ever so slightly more than the other ones. £92 auction, 90. Yeah, 99.99. Buy it now. These little booster bundle things, I think, are quite good. I think they're quite a nice thing to own. 107 there. Again, acrylic case. Korean. Rule of Black Flame is cheap. And you look at, this is translated to Japanese as well. You look at the last couple of sets. You've got Rule of Black Flame at around 50 to 55 a box over here. You've got Raging Sea as well. And then you've got the 2 other new sets that have just come recently out. They can be picked up for the same price. So we've seen a dip across the market, not just English, but Japanese as well. And that's fairly normal. I think that's standard. I think people have such short-term memory, or a lot of people generally entered the hobby after 2020. So they don't understand what it's like to be living in an ecosystem of Pokemon where it's normal to have the last 6 to 8 sets on the shelf at any given time. Like, that's very normal. I remember at any point in my collecting life of 20 years or plus, going into a store and I could pick up packs of the last 6 to 8 sets. Now, if we look at, we go Silver Tempest, for instance, because that was the latest restock alongside Lost Origins that distros got with here in the UK. Booster box. Can we do buy it now? And let's have a look at the cheapest. I know 129 is not what the price is. Because as far as I'm aware, I still think you can get this at distro. ETBs, again, they had a restock. Again, these bundles, and I think these build and battle things are quite nice. I've talked about it a little bit before. I think they're a good... there we go. 99.49, so below £100. 100%, you know, over 1,000 sales. You know, below 100%. Great set. We go Lost Origins. That might be a little bit more now. We've streamlined yours. I think it actually is Lost Origin, not Lost Origins. I always say Lost Origins, but let's have a look. ETBs, loads again. Probably going to be looking at around a little bit more. £110. 98 point, yeah. £115. So again, it's a little bit more, but that's still below retail. There's not going to be many sets. You can probably still get Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage. A lot of these sets, you might be able to get them to 120 to 140, but that's still like retail. If we're talking about retail, that's still retail. If it's 150 over, then obviously, you know, I know Sword and Shield base, Rebel Clash, they're over that. Obviously, Evolving Skies. Fusion Strike is around 130 now, so it's still below retail, but it's climbed up a little bit. Chilling Rain, actually, funny enough, has gone up a little bit. Considering, or Chilling Pain, as most people call it, because that was a set that a lot of people didn't like. Let's find a box of it. ETBs. Where's the cheapest box? On auction, yeah. £140. So 140, about 140. Last one there. Again, still technically that's retail, I suppose, because the price was a little bit cheaper then. But that is retail. So it's ridiculous. Like, it's mad how kind of, you know, people think it's a bad thing. I suppose for stores it is. Now, I'm a store myself, and I'm not stocking modern Pokemon right now. I'm not actively buying cases of each set. It just makes no sense for me to be doing it, because I can't compete with stores that are going to be fire selling for £90 a box. £105 for Battle Styles still, which is, yeah, it's mad. I mean, you know, people complained when we couldn't get product, and now you can get Battle Styles, which was what, 2020, I think. Battle Styles was 2020, right? Because you had Rebel Clash, which came out just as the pandemic hit, and then you had Vivid Voltage. Yeah, Battle Styles was the 5th set, so it might be early 2021. So it's at least 2 years old now, 2 to 2.5 years old, and you can get that still below retail. So I think the opportunities are there. If you're buying it, this is the market for you. Like, you can buy most boxes, you can buy cases. Stores are selling cases for cheap. I've seen cases. If you spend enough time on the internet having a look, not on eBay, but having a look at stores, again, the pro for a buyer is that so many stores started stocking Pokemon, and very few of them are going to be existing over the next 18 to 24 months, because they're mostly stocking Pokemon, and they've got a surplus of Pokemon now. They went hard on one specific set, and they never recouped their costs, and they never tried to change what their business model was. They stuck with just Pokemon, because that's what they got into because of the boom, right? That's all they knew. They didn't really know about stores, you know, stocking other TCGs. And I think if you're not adapting your business model to do this, like, I'm gonna, you know, use EPR Gaming for an example. That's a store that I've ordered from for years. That's an online store. I've ordered from them for years. Completely trusted, like, generally top company. They've started moving into sports a lot now because they realized that Pokemon, it wasn't there. They've done every TCG now. They've done Flesh and Blood. They've done One Piece. You know, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. They've touched Yu-Gi-Oh! All sorts of other TCGs, MetaZoo as well. But they're doing sports now because that works for them. And I think that's the kind of thing that is going to separate the stores that are going to last and the ones that won't, are the ones that are willing to adapt their model, maybe look at what TCGs are going to be selling well. Right now, for me, One Piece is selling really well. I've reserved back on buying Pokemon, and I'm mostly looking at One Piece now. Obviously, I do Flesh and Blood, and I stopped Magic still as well. But Magic, I dropped doing sealed product for. I only do singles. Pokemon, I'm going to get very little sealed product now, just because I can't compete with the stores that are going to be buying like 80 cases, and they can fire sell at 90, 95 a box, still make a little bit of profit, whereas I can't do that because I'm not buying those volumes. So, yeah, I think Chaos Cards, a prime example. Black Friday is in a week. As from filming this video, I don't know when this is going to be up. Perfect opportunity. Chaos Cards Friday, Black Friday sales are always so very good. I buy a lot of stuff on their Black Friday sales because they literally drop down ETBs to 25 quid. They're the closest thing we're going to get to the kind of prices you see in the US when they have sales, because they have sales that are absolutely ridiculous sometimes, and we can't get anywhere near that here in the UK and Europe. So keep an eye on that. I think don't be worried by what's happening right now. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we're just normalizing. We're just back to normality here with Pokemon, where you're going to be able to pick up multiple sets within a store. It's all going to be retail. Obviously, this is below retail. That's kind of, we're in a global recession. Pokemon print runs didn't go up, but just demand went a little bit down. I think both of those are hit at the same time, and I think it's the after effect of Pokemon being so booming that we've dropped this below. Because if we look at, we look at what we were buying boxes for before, like a couple of years ago, say 5 years ago, for instance, we weren't paying £130 a box. Even though RRP has always been higher than what boxes sell for, but the prices that we're seeing these boxes right now are comparable to 2018, 2019 prices if we don't account for inflation, for instance. So they are slightly lower than they probably should be. I would say around 110 to 120 is probably what I'd expect boxes to be at. But as a buyer, I think this means it's a great opportunity. We've seen the saturation of graded now, where a lot of people have stopped grading their cards now, or they're a bit more picky with what they're grading. People are still collecting binder sets. I think that's a really great thing to do. I love seeing people collect binder sets. So yeah, I think, a lot of people feel a bit doom and gloom and negative about it. Unless you are a store, you should have no negativity about this, because you get to buy this product for cheap. It's readily available everywhere. It's a lot more affordable than what it used to be, at least. And for me, going into a card store and being able to pick up a couple of packs of multiple sets, that's always been something I've loved. I can't do it with all TCGs. I can't do it at Flesh and Blood anymore, but I can do it at Pokemon at least. So that's something that I enjoy doing. There's nothing better than, you take it back to being a kid and you're going into Toys R Us, for instance, and you get to pick your packs at the till. I remember them having Expedition, Aquapolis, Skyridge. They had all the Neo sets still. And then, they started moving on to the EX set. So I remember being able to get all of those at once. And I just, that feeling as a kid is what kids can have still right now. It's just, we couldn't have it a couple of years ago when, a store would buy a case or two and it would be gone, and then have to buy more, and then the prices would rise because they were trying not to sell out of it so quickly. And that's why we got these new UPCs. They're down to like 400 a case. Like, if you buy a case, it's 400. Like, multiple store sellers are selling that if you look on Instagram, which is ridiculous. I paid 500 for mine, and then a couple of weeks later it drops down to 400. But that's the game, isn't it? That's really what it's about. So I think, let me know your thoughts below. This really does resonate in terms of a global market, because I know it's the same in the US as well. Pokemon's had a bit of a lull everywhere. But let me know, your thoughts in the comments below. Where do you see Pokemon going within the next 18 to 24 months? Is this normality now? Are we going to see this for the next couple of years? Or is this just, in fact, a dip, and the prices we saw last year is the new normal? Time will tell. As they always as they always say, you know, timing the market always beats trying to time the market. And I think taking yourself out of the situation and being less emotional about it and having a look at the facts here, you get to pick up multiple sets for, you know, for less than retail. So that's a great thing. But shop around. I would recommend, honestly, I think investing in sealed right now is probably not a bad thing. If you're looking at long term, you know, I'm and I don't mean like 2 years, that's not long term. I'm talking 10 years. Generally, the return of investment growth per year on Pokemon is the highest out of all TCGs. If you look at Magic right now, it's around a 9%, which isn't any better than the S&P 500. So, you know, would you rather have a room full of products that you've then also got to talk about trying to shift, time, postage and packaging, then you've got fees for selling on eBay and stuff, you know, or you know, simply just have that in your portfolio, you know. But when you look at Pokemon, and generally you can see anywhere from 25 to 40% rise. That might be lowered a little bit now by maybe this SV block and the late Sword and Shield. But if you compare Magic the Gathering boxes from 2015 or 2013 or 2010, and you see so many boxes of Magic the Gathering are, you know, $150 to $250 still, whereas the sets from Pokemon back then are 500 plus. The numbers are there. And I'm going to be working on some more videos in terms of like compiling data. So I want to try to do some EV videos for One Piece, and I want to do price tracking for I'd probably do from like Lost Origins onwards. Any set that has been recently printed again. So probably Lost Origins, so Silver Tempest, and then Scarlet Violet over. I want to do a monthly tracking of those prices, and that date will be available for anybody that's part of the Patreon. There is a link in the description below. I haven't posted much content, so if you are already a Patreon subscriber, the next content will be coming out next week. And when I start doing content again, when I start doing YouTube lives, I'm going to give a discount for those that are on the Patreon for the lack of content that they've had over the last couple of months. So don't worry, if you are a Patreon, you know, I think there's 5 people that are, you know, are patrons of my Patreon. Those will get, you know, a discount for a couple of YouTube lives at least, just to make up for that. But thank you all for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe as always, and have a great day.